should work.
No, no, it doesn't start till April. 18th of January, rather.
Oh, we're live now on the streaming service. Should I stop my video? We're live. I might mute myself. Hello, Colin.
Hang on. Hi, Gerald. Sorry. How are you?
Well, thank you. Yes, good evening.
I've got a bit of a funny picture, haven't I?
Yes, you have.
Quite know why it's gone like that.
Hide your beard. Remember?
My beard is going
Happy
to.
birthday.
Hello.
Happy birthday,
Oh,
Gerald.
thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yep. Hello, Nadine.
It got viewed a lot, Gerald, didn't it? Have you seen how many times it's been viewed?
100 and I can't remember. It was 190 or something. Was it?
Yes, exactly. Coming up to 200. I was really pleased with that.
And I think there's an odd thing when it goes out through the website. It doesn't always record it.
Oh, is that right?
Ian said because these people can get who want to boost their ratings. Just get sort of can do an automatic thing that just generates things through websites.
Oh, right.
So there's some sort of thing in it. In I don't really understand these things, but it's to stop people automatically.
The email, what's slightly frustrating and strange, I think, is that the email sent out today was opened, hang on one sec, 290 times. So it was opened 290 times.
Yeah,
I think it was probably opened more than that, but coming up to 300, but 123 people clicked. So you sort of think there's quite a large, that's less than half of the number of people who are actually clicking the link. But
I think they might have clicked the link without it registering.
I think I'm one of the stupid ones who couldn't read the email properly, and I forgot that I could have watched the YouTube before the Zoom meeting tonight.
Did I not make that clear, Nadine? Maybe I hadn't made that clear.
Stupid, I can't read. And then when Millie said she would be Zooming at 6 to join in now.
Oh, great.
I sort of thought that's what it was all about, but I will know in future to look at the YouTube.
You can look at the YouTube. I think it's timed, isn't it, Gerald? So the YouTube comes on at 7 o'clock.
Yes, from 7 o'clock in the morning. From any time from 7 o'clock in the morning, you can look at the. Yeah.
Good.
Exactly.
I read it in such a hurry. I didn't take it on board properly.
Absolutely. No, that's actually very useful to hear that, Nadine. Did you get my email?
I did.
So much.
I did.
Thank you so much for that lovely book. Yeah, both of us.
I think
that was so sweet of you.
It's an amazing story. Have you read it? No,
I haven't yet. I've
sort of. It's absolutely extraordinary.
Perfect.
I thought
that's
it was
so sweet of you. Christmas reading. That's really good. Hello, Rosemary. Hello, Alison.
Hi.
I don't want to.
Hi, Colin. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Rosemary. Yeah, I'm very well. Shall I sit on the floor? I'll sit on the floor. We'll crouch around the fire a bit.
Hello, Emma.
Hello. I'm shrinking.
You are actually.
I've shrunk.
I don't like the symbolism there.
I know. This is what it's like in my household, Rosemary.
Oh, I don't believe it for a moment, Emma.
Towering over me.
How are you, Gerald?
Well, thank you. Has everybody else seen the video? Hands up who's seen the video. Maybe I should do that at the beginning. Say hands up who's seen the video, and then we can just get a. He's going to I think just give a bit of a recap of what he said. So just to sort of remind people, and then it's sort of mainly sort of within the limits of Zoom. We're seeing if we can get sort of a bit of discussion and people are asking him whatever they want and or reactions to.
How long is the video? How long is it?
It's about
7
7
minutes.
7.
Yeah.
There she is.
Hi, Millie.
Hello. Oh my gosh, bearded one. Hello. Hiya.
Yes, it's coming off tomorrow. It's coming off tomorrow.
I'm starting mine on January the 1st.
You got a long way to go, Millie. You've got a long way to go.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Nadine.
Hi.
Hello, Minnie.
This is very exciting, Colin. Tell
It's
me.
Gerald's idea, really. It is. Oh, there's Brother Sam. Yeah, it's great. It's really great. It's a joy, actually. There's Mark. That's fantastic.
I haven't Googled Father Sam.
Brother
He's
Sam,
down
he's
there,
there.
he's
He's
there.
done. Have you
He's
seen his?
waving at you now.
He got me going this morning in a very foggy morning, and I listened to Father Sam, and then I jumped out and fed my guinea fowl and rounded up the donkeys, and with a joy in my step.
That's a very Franciscan morning you had there.
Evening, Victoria. Can't hear you.
You're muted.
Oh, yeah.
He's sitting in the dark.
There we go.
Hello, Victoria,
evening.
again.
Tony, you're muted
Hello.
as well.
I'm now unmuted. Evening all.
Evening, Tony.
Hello, Tony.
Evening Rosemary.
Hello, Gary. With your,
Evening, Alison.
Mhm.
I don't know which Gary that is.
Hello, Ross.
Hello, Tony. Hello, Rosalind. Hello, Rachel, for the second time this evening.
Could well be Gary Mantle. Oh, it is. Yeah, Gary Mantle.
Oh. Wow.
Wait a minute, I'll just go on.
Crowd.
No, okay, come, quick. No.
Where did Millie go?
I'm back. I was
Oh,
worried
you're
about
back.
my hair. I never look in the mirror until I see a zoom, and then I
It
realize
looked fine. Well, yes, I have the same trouble.
Hello. Hello. Hi, Richard. Do you want to ring on Nick's mobile?
Oh, Nadine's
Hi,
on
Tim.
the phone.
Tim, you look as if you're in the pitch dark. Where are you?
Oh, yeah, Tim.
He's
Tim.
in his office. He's in his.
I'm in the pitch dark.
I'll get him.
You got a power cut in London.
No, I'm in a strange secret place.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Are you in the cupboard under the stairs?
Yeah, no,
Yes.
no,
Where are you, Tim?
it's strange and secret. I can't tell you.
You said that on Sunday. You're obviously, it's incredibly, I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah, so am I.
Can't
I'll tell you sometime.
Okay.
Are you alone in your dark place?
No, I'm sharing a house with strange and secret people.
Hello. You look kind of disembodied.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
You do.
Just a face.
But anyway, it's very nice to see you. How are you? Emma and Colin.
We're fine.
We're
We're
fine.
absolutely fine. Yeah, absolutely fine. No secrets.
Everybody has lights on in their houses.
That is quite normal.
Are you gradually coming into the light as we go through Advent, Tim?
Yeah, yes.
Starting in darkness.
Tiny little bit more.
Mm.
Oh,
We've
Hello,
still
Eric.
got people coming in, so we'll wait a few minutes. I'm having to admit people as well as sort of.
Oh, are you? Do you want me to do that, Gerald? If you make me a
Can you,
host,
can
I
you, okay, if you can admit, or maybe, can you,
think you'd have to make me a co-host, wouldn't you?
or maybe, oh, I don't know how we do.
And then I could let people in.
Yeah.
There's Barney. Hi, Barney. If you
I do on to make host. Do you want to make Colin host? Yes.
I am the host now, so that means I am the host. Okay, I'll let people in. If you want to make a start, Gerald, please
Yes, okay.
do, and I'll let people in as they arrive.
Make a start. And anyway, welcome everybody, and welcome to Brother Sam. Really good to have you with us now. Actually, sort of not quite completely live, but at least live on screen. It'd be lovely if you were able to be with us here in the deanery. But one day, we'll get you down here one day. But we are welcome. Also, we're live streaming at the moment on YouTube, so there may be some people who are joining us who we can't see, but who can see us. So welcome to them. And just to say, we are going to be recording this as well. So if you want to adjust your camera or anything like that, brush your hair or whatever, or anything, then do so, because we're going to post it up on the Vale of Pewsey website so people can catch up afterwards. And if we can abide by the normal conventions of keeping yourselves muted through it. And Sam is hoping to have this as much of a discussion as a monologue, so we'd love as much participation as possible, either via the chat room or wave at me or put up your blue hand if you want to ask a question or comment, or just bring your own experiences from what Sam has given us today in a most extraordinary, wonderful reflection and a really good start to our week. But before we start on this, I thought it would be nice for us to know a bit more about Sam. So Sam, perhaps you could say a bit more about yourself, and I was specifically interested in your own spiritual journey, your own walk with God, and what sort of your vocation to a monastic lifestyle and how you got there and to where you are now.
Okay, Gerald, thank you. And it's really lovely to be with you all. There's quite a crowd, isn't it? I'm amazed, really impressed. 25 at the moment of us on. I mean, just to explain where I am at the moment, I think I might have mentioned it in one of the videos, in this morning's video or on Sundays. I mean, I'm living in a Franciscan community in East London, part of a group of 5 people, and we have people living with us, homeless people living with us in our house. Before that, I was at Hillfield Friary in Dorset, which is where I met I met Gerald there through that, and part of the Diocese of Salisbury then, and where we were a Franciscan community with others living with us, but working on an environmental project of the care of creation. We were the first place in the country to get an Arusha Gold Award for our creation care, and we to develop it as a centre where people could come to share our life, to pray and worship with us, but also to explore Christian understanding of our relationship with God's creation. About myself, a bit more about myself. I mean, I've been a friar now for 40. What is it now? It's 46 years. I can hardly imagine life. Before that, I was a curate in a parish in Liverpool. And I mean, I grew up in a Christian family. I'm a Londoner, North London. I had the blessings of a Christian family and an education in a Christian foundation. And actually, following Christ has been part of my life, from as far as I can ever remember, with some ups and downs and some hiccups along the way, of course. But I felt the call to ordination really very young in life. I think I was 15, 16, when I went to our school chaplain and rather haltingly said, I'm thinking about what I ought to do when I leave school, sir. And he said, "You mean you come to tell me that you feel God's calling you to be a priest?" I said, "How did you know?" And he said, "Well, I've been waiting for you to come and tell me that for the last 6 months." And really, I went from there after I left school because I was very green. I was in boarding school, and I, obviously quite green behind the ears. And I went and worked in a factory for a year in Birmingham, labour on the floor in a factory, which sort of knocked a few corners off me. I worked in a pub in the evening, got used to a different side of life altogether. And then I went to university, and I was ordained at the age of 22. I was so young, I had to get an archbishop's dispensation to be ordained at that age. I worked did 4.5 years curacy in an inner city parish in Liverpool. And then that's where I first really got to know the friars, the Anglican Franciscan brothers. I just felt that I felt called to live in community. I was inspired by the example of St. Francis. I wanted to give my life to God. And I suppose I felt called to the margins, called to the edge, which as Franciscans, we have that vocation to live on the margins of society a bit. So this is where I am. The friars have taken me around. They say that for a friar, the world's your cloister, and I'd say it's taken me to Australia, to Papua New Guinea, to the Solomon Islands, to Africa, to America. I've lived in Liverpool and Birmingham and Manchester and Worcestershire and Hillfield, and I've been a vicar in Cambridge, and now here I am in London, sort of put out to grass in the East End, and I'm blessed to be here. So that's enough about me. But
well, thank you, and I think people, I'm sure if that sparked any interest in people or any questions in people, we can ask as the discussions go on. But might be interesting to have a hands up who's listened to the reflection this morning, because there are some people who didn't quite manage to get to the video on it. So I think we seem to. Most people seem to be able to, so that's good, because there was we've heard of one person who didn't manage to get to it. But perhaps you could just give us a quick recap of this dependency and sort of this you were talking about sort of feeling out of control, but then we're trying to get back somebody who can control. So give you a brief reflection on your reflection, Sam. That would be great.
Okay. A brief recap, as far as I get confused as to which one I've done and which is the last one, but I hope I can remember. I mean, this morning's one. What I was trying to say, I think, was that I think one of the difficulties for us about the pandemic is that this is a totally new situation for us, isn't it? I mean, none of us have experienced anything like this before. I suppose the nearest thing will have been those who can just remember the war years. But even then, there was a sense of, someone was in control. At least there would seem to be a direct purpose, and we knew what we were doing or what we were for. But actually here, it's really difficult because, I mean, this is a totally new situation. And it seems that we ought to be able to know what to do. And people ought to know how to respond, be a solution. But actually, we're still, after 9 months, more than 9 months, 10 months, 11 months, we're still in the midst of this. And that's a very disorienting experience for us as humans, particularly as we've got used to we've got all the solutions. We can sort this one out by technology or by something. we are we've been used to having that mindset, and then here we are. We're now suddenly sort of, as it were, cut loose, cut adrift. Whereas that's a very uncomfortable feeling, it might bring us back. What I was trying to say, I think it might bring us back to reality. That actually we are mortals, you know. We are, you know, life actually is unpredictable. Life is quite fragile. I mean, particularly for people in parts of maybe other parts of the world or other situations. But for most of us, it's difficult to recognise, to come to terms with that. But the reality that all of us, life is not totally predictable. That we are, but yet, we are held. We're held in life. We're held in being. If we weren't held in being, I believe, if we weren't held in being by the love of God, we wouldn't exist at all. Perhaps it's good to be reminded of that, and to bring us back to a sense of humility, a sense of dependence on the love of God and on the creative love and mercy and forgiveness of God. Perhaps it's not a bad to learn that again, and it might be good for us individually, but also for us as a society. So I was saying something along those, but maybe that isn't very clear, and maybe there are lots of questions, and that raises lots of other issues as well. So, you know, and it's a start of a discussion rather than a, you know. So.
And I hope everybody's taken their deep breath and experienced that dependency. And but so any reactions, any own experiences, what would people like to contribute? Wave your hand or I can't see everybody. So Victoria, are you waving?
Sort of.
Yes.
Yes. Just thank you, Brother Sam, so much. And I thought there's a lovely connection between you asking us to take a deep breath and the lack of control that we seemingly have. But one of the few things we can control is our breathing, and that we you know, it helps us to be sort of mindful of that, how powerful breathing is and what it means. We are just our breath. Without it, our physical bodies aren't alive.
Thank you. I like the word, you know, you said you're being mindful. And I think there is that sort of mindful attention to our existence, just the fact that we exist, and to recognize that and to acknowledge that, give thanks for that, rejoice in that. One of the great companion of St. Francis of Assisi was called Clare. She was who actually outlived Francis and lived very much inspired by St. Francis of Assisi. And at the end of her life, she wrote her journal. She just wrote, "Thank you, God, for creating me. Thank you, God, for." And I think that's just that's what a deep breath, I think, actually can do for us. Just acknowledge that we are created, and to acknowledge the miracle of that. Actually, that of course, you know, I recognize that many people's all lives from time to time, you know, go through suffering and great difficulty. But actually, the miracle of existence is something we need to recognize. We don't own our existence; it's given us.
And in some ways, it's getting just to the very essence of our spirituality. I mean, a lot of people say I'm spiritual, but not religious, whatever that might mean. And sort of, I think that just that sense of being, that sense of the creator, that sense of of something far greater than us is where people often start in their own spirituality.
Yes, yes, yes.
Gerald, there's a question for Brother Sam from Gary Mantle. I'll read it out. It's come through on chat. It's a question for Brother Sam, but Gary points out it's a question for anyone else. How do you find space for contemplation in the extraordinary business that some of us have experienced without pause since March? And are retreats still happening? So I suppose Gary's looking for a formal idea of retreating and finding space.
Thank you, Gary. I mean, just in answer to the question, are retreats still happening? I don't think they are. I mean, not they're happening. There are online retreats, there are virtual retreats, but actually, I think on the whole, well, one of the retreat houses opened in September, but of course, very quickly closed down again. So I think it's a great loss, and had visitors, guests at Hillfield or at Almouth or at Glasshampton, are three places where people come for retreat since the beginning of March. How do you find space? Well, I think it's an interesting thing because I think different people have experienced different things. For some, this lockdown has been extremely busy. I mean, working online I think is very demanding. I find it quite exhausting. Doing a lot of meetings online, doing a lot of work online, and working from home. If you are working from home, it likewise can be really tiring because you haven't got any hours, you haven't got any rhythm. You could work right the way through. I know a young friend of mine who's working from home, and he's got a really interesting job. And he says, I just work for 12 hours. Work much harder from home, actually. And of course, if you've got children at home, you've got to look after them. That's exhausting, very, very demanding. But other people actually have found more time. Find actually this lockdown has given them the opportunity for being more reflective, for getting out and having their daily walk, and actually beginning to have, and without the commute into work, without the traffic, without meetings all over the place, actually they found more space. So I think it's been a different experience for different people. I don't know what other people, anyone else, anyone else like to comment on that or to respond to that?
Angus has got a hand.
Angus, you're muted. Could you unmute yourself? Bottom left-hand corner of your screen, there should be the bottom left-hand.
Yes.
That's it. You're there.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry about that. I just wanted to say that I listened with a very special interest to Brother Sam this morning because my wife and I both have had the coronavirus way back in March, and my wife had it very mildly, but I had it the opposite, very badly, and was in hospital for 4 weeks on oxygen.
Oh, God.
And I then caught a secondary lung infection in the hospital, from the hospital.
Oh.
And so, to put it briefly, I was very lucky to come through it. Very lucky to be alive, and very thankful to the wonderful NHS in our local hospital in Somerset. And what I wanted to say was that the experience absolutely brought one right up face to face with one's mortality.
Yeah.
And therefore I find that I sort out the things that are important much more clearly than I had done before. At least I think I do. I understand how every moment counts that God has given you, and you try to enjoy and take pleasure in all that you do, and you think about not just your friends and other people, you think about people who are far worse off than you are as well, a little bit more because of the experience. And I was so grateful to Brother Sam for his thoughts on those lines this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angus. That's really, I mean, very powerful and actually very helpful to me, and I'm sure to others actually. You know, I think that sense that you've been coming through the virus, you certainly, you've received life as gift.
Yes.
You see the gift of this.
Yes. Yes.
And I think I said in the sermon yesterday, which you may not all have heard, but I said that I had this friend of mine who used to say to me, every day over 70 is a bonus. Every day is a bonus. And I think there is a sense in which, but that's true. That's actually true, of course, for us all from the moment we're born.
Yes.
Every day is a bonus. You know, we can't just take for granted. Every day is a gift.
That's right. Well, my guardian angels are working overtime, Brother Sam, because when I'd recovered, which I have now, I had a very serious car accident recently when a lorry came round a very sharp bend on my side of the road a few days ago and hit my car. I managed to stop, but he hit the car bang in front.
Oh, no.
And so here I am, but it was a terrible shock. And so my angels are working overtime, aren't they? Yes.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else like to comment on this line or anything we've?
Biz. I think Biz. Yes, Biz. Go ahead.
Say something. Just following up from Angus Sterling's, how to sort out what is important. I've today spent quite a long time in front of the computer actually sorting out what isn't important. It's rather shattering. I just want to learn to just sort out what is important.
Yes.
That's all.
Yes.
Thank you, Biz. And when Jesus says, in the Beatitudes, he says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." And pure in heart isn't about not having impulse. I think it's about being single-minded, about knowing what's important. Purity of heart is actually being able to focus on what's really, really, really important in our lives and for our community and in our relationship with creation and in our relationship with God.
Yeah. I'll try.
Can I chip in? Can I chip in there slightly, Gerald? Can I just a quick word? I wonder if what you've just said, Brother Sam. I wonder if you could help me, because what you've just said is very moving, and it seems to me to have a very much a Franciscan quality, and I say that as someone on the outside of. I don't know a great deal about the Franciscans, and I'm going to betray my ignorance by talking about a film called Brother Sun and Sister Moon that Franco Zeffirelli made, which is really pretty awful film, mainly because of Donovan's awful songs. But there's a wonderful moment. There's a wonderful moment very near the end when the Pope comes down the steps at St. Peter's to meet Francis and his poor brothers, and Zeffirelli shoots it so you get the architecture of the building is almost a pattern, those marble steps, and Alec Guinness playing the Pope comes down through the grandeur of the building and embraces, to the shock of all the assembled cardinals and the curia and everything, embraces Francis as a brother and kisses him. And it seems to me that what he recognizes in Francis is what you just said, that purity of heart, and we can't find it. Biz says we create for ourselves our own vast St. Peter's architectures around ourselves of computers and diaries and busyness and all the kind of superstructure of normal everyday life. And it's so difficult to get back to what Francis offers us, it seems to me, and what you're offering us in these reflections is a vision of that purity of heart, the simplicity, and that focus on what's important.
Yes, thank you. I do remember the film so well. I remember the scene as well with Alec Guinness looking slightly bemused at the beginning.
Yes.
So on. But I think this, and ironically, we have all this sort of the technology and the complexity of life, and it affects Franciscans, I might say, just as much as anyone else. It really does. I mean, how to manage all the requirements and the regulations and the data protection and health and safety and safeguarding and everything, and and then having the technology to back it up, and it's all supposed to make life more manageable and better, but actually it somehow so clogs up the system. It somehow and so actually learning that singleness of mind and singleness of heart is a great it's a life's work. We had one brother, Brother Ramon, and he was very, very well qualified. I mean, he was a secretarial shorthand typist. He was trained as a nurse. He was a priest and theologian. He could do first aid and everything. Very, very competent, very good cook. But the he didn't do was drive. And someone said to him, Ramon, if you just were able to drive, it would be so much more helpful. He said, but see, that would just add a thing for me to do. Another thing. And I think we've got that sort of acquisitive. We've got to have more and more and more to be able to do. But actually, we ought to be focusing what we can do without. I mean, sometimes less is more, we say. Less is more.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you. Victoria, you're muted. Victoria, you're still muted.
You can unmute them as host, Colin.
Oh, can I?
Yes.
I'll see if I can do that for her. Hang on. I can only ask her to unmute, actually. Victoria, are you unmuted? No.
Maybe come back to Victoria.
Victoria, you are unmuted now.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. My computer is very unresponsive. Sorry, I was very interested in that lovely dialogue, and I think that this notion of concentration on what is important involves a great deal of single-mindedness that can sometimes make us unpopular. And we live so many different lives, seemingly. We live lives as parents, as people who work, as friends, as husbands or wives or partners. And there is a great deal to see to. And so, yeah, it's a real challenge. And it's just that single-mindedness and the sometimes being unpopular because of it, because you can't attend to everything and everyone, and is a tricky course that we have to navigate, I think.
I think it is. It's extraordinarily difficult, and I mean, I feel very blessed because I live in a community of brothers. We can share the work, and I can, you know, we can set aside time time for prayer during the day, and you know we do that. But actually, in a sort of day-to-day life where you're carrying a, you know, working a full-time job, or you've got a family to bring up, it's really very challenging. All I would say is, I've got a friend of mine who was, you know, he's been a GP. He was a GP for 35, and he's more recently been ordained. But you know, in his life as a GP, I used to go and stay with his good friend, he and his wife and family. And I used to go and stay with him, and he would, before I went to bed at about sort of 10:30, he would say, do you want to come and join me in the morning for prayer? And I would say, sometimes a bit reluctantly, yes, okay. He said, because I knew what would come afterwards. He said, I'll bring you a cup of tea at 5:30. He did. I mean, this was his routine. He would bring me a cup of tea at 5:30, and from 5:45 until 7:15 every morning, we would have an hour's prayer in his little oratory, in his little chapel he made in his house, ending up with morning prayer, the daily morning prayer. Then at 6:45, he would get the children's breakfast ready, and then he would leave the house at about 7:20 in the morning in order to get to the surgery for 7:30. So 7:45. So ready to start work at 8 o'clock. Now it was an extraordinary. I mean, but he would say, I can't actually do without this. I can't live without this. I know that's what I urgently need, that hour in the morning, that silent hour in the morning. Now, I'm not prescribing that for other people or for anyone, but I'm just saying that, you know, he recognized how important it was to make space, and to cost, I think, for his wife and family as well, except that he did get their children's breakfast before he set out. He would, you know, he determined on that, and he continues to do it. Has to find their own way of doing it, but I think just making the space is really important. I think sometimes, you know, we say time to pray, and I hear clergy saying this, haven't got time to pray, how do we fit it in? It's actually should be the other way around. The prayer is the fundamental thing, attentiveness. The attentiveness to being in the presence of God is the fundamental thing, and that's how do we fit everything else in after that. Trying to see it that way around actually begins to put it in the proper perspective.
What's your daily prayer routine, Sam?
Well, we have prayer in chapel at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then we celebrate the Eucharist. Because we've been very blessed because we've been able to do all this together during the lockdown, even to sing hymns, and then half an hour's prayer after the Eucharist, silent prayer after the Eucharist. We meet short prayer at midday for 10 minutes. Then we have evening prayer at 5 o'clock, finishing at 6, and then we have night prayer at 8 o'clock. Short night prayer. So that's just the rhythm of the day. And you know, we sometimes, you know, things interrupted, and occasionally we you know, have to go and do something, or we're out and about, or occasionally I fall asleep, particularly around evening prayer time. But that's the sort of, it's that sort of daily sort of attentive, and I find it as a time of attentiveness to my being, the fact that I'm here at all. Try and sort of attend to the rest of my life around that.
Sorry.
Victoria, or do you have?
Sorry,
got too much to say, haven't I?
And Janet, I think, wants to say something. We'll have Victoria first.
Okay, just that it's lovely to learn the art of doing everything prayerfully. So, you know, whatever we're doing to I think can be done with prayer in mind.
Absolutely, and it's the special times of prayer are only in order that the rest of the life can become prayer. It's doing it in a particular time so that actually the life is shaped by it.
Janet, do you want to? You had your hand up. You need to unmute.
Janet, you're muted at the moment. That's it.
Is that right?
That's it. Yep, you're there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I can.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'd just like to briefly look at the blessings of the lockdown. Certainly from my point of view, it's made me stop at all sorts of things I wasn't aware I was actually carrying. And some of the stuff is family, being caring for the family in my head. But there have been moments of utter release and joy, quite unexpected, absolutely giftings. And for years, and as Mike Mason will know, I've struggled to get quiet in a contemplative way. But what's happened is occasionally I've been surprised by this space that opens up around me, and which is completely new experience. I'm nearly 80, and I've been a Christian since I was 12.
Wow. And
so lockdown, I'm finding, is a place of joy, but it's given joy. I can't create it, and it's understanding a little more of the gift of grace. And I'm just so grateful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's just a wonderful testimony, actually. Wonderful. And I know just what you mean. I know. I'm sure I know what you mean. Being able to actually let go of some things, or of actually responsibility for certain things, and actually being able to be in touch with the gracefulness of life. Do you know there's
it's an exchange, isn't it?
Yes. And actually, I do believe that's some people, would say, oh, it's quite selfish to think about oneself and to be, but actually it's not. It's actually by that recognition of gracefulness, you actually become a blessing for other people. It is actually a blessing for other people.
But we're trained to think that such a thought and such an approach is putting your ego in the center. Actually, it's not. But we have to learn that, and then just be ready to accept it when it comes. Puts you in a totally different place.
Do you know that there's a verse of George Herbert poem called Gratefulness? One of George Herbert's poems, and the first stanza and the first two lines and the last two lines of the first and last stanza go, "Thou that hast given so much to me, give one thing more, a grateful heart, not thankful when it pleaseth, as if thy blessing had spare days, but such a heart whose pulse might be thy praise." I think that's just that sense of being in receipt of so much can shape our lives. Can shape our lives.
Could I add a little something?
Sorry, Heather had her hand up, Angus.
I just wanted to say that I very much appreciate and enjoy the books written by the Reverend Michael Maine, who used to be the Dean of Westminster.
Yes, yeah,
I
indeed.
don't know whether you know his book.
I do indeed, yes.
Learning to Dance and a Sunrise, This Sunrise of Wonder.
Yes, that's right, yes.
And he also wrote a very good book on prayer, a short book. But why I'm mentioning it is that he stresses in nearly everything he writes about the importance of finding stillness and the presence of God in stillness. And I think it's not always very easy in a busy day to find stillness, but it's very important to try and do so. We have sons and daughters with quite large families. Our son has got 4 boys and is working at home. So finding stillness is very hard, but quite important, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. You know, I when out of the lockdown, I travel quite a lot on the London Underground. For an oldie like me, it's free. I mean, it's amazing. It's just extraordinary. You can travel all over the place. And but what I know is that you know, sort of 8 out of 10 people on the Underground are actually, they are just watching their phones. I mean, they're sending messages, they are doing games, they're no, I don't want to condemn people for doing that, but it just seems to me that there's what you don't see on the whole in the Underground is people just sitting and actually sort of present to the place, to the people, to what's going on around them. It's this sort of constant need to be distracted, to be doing something else, to be not where you really are. Well, you've got to occupy the commute some way, and I suppose if you don't, I sometimes take a book on the Underground, but it's that sort of, it's just, there's a difficulty I think we find in just being present to where we are, being attentive to where we are.
Heather, you had your hand up.
Yeah, hi. In contrast to what you were just saying, Brother Sam, I've recently read a book called Practicing the Presence of God by Brother Lawrence.
By Lawrence, yes.
And I found it has revolutionized the way I pray. And I was thinking, I so wish I had discovered this book when I was a young mother with 4 children. Because actually what he says in, and I highly recommend this book, by the way, it's quite a small book, so it doesn't take too long to get through it. But what he's saying is that by mindfully, and I guess it is really early mindfulness, by mindfully doing every job down to peeling the potatoes and washing up,
of course,
that he develops this prayer, this presence of God, to the point that after practicing it for many years, he finds no difference between his prayer time and the time he's peeling potatoes. And I think that's actually really encouraging for really busy people. If you can develop that mindfulness in your everyday, that every job you're doing is to, for God and for the glory of God. It's a great place to be.
Certainly is. And I think it's what St. Paul talks about in the letter to his letter to the Thessalonians. He says, pray without ceasing. Now, I don't think that actually is just always be saying prayers, but I think it is pray with that attentiveness, with that sense of the presence of God, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whether you are peeling the potatoes or doing the washing up, or whether you're actually engaging with another person, or whether you're in church worshiping. Pray, let the whole lot become prayer, an awareness of living and rejoicing in the presence of God. Wonderful. It is. It's a great book. Classic.
It is a really great book. Just want to second that. Love it. I absolutely love that book. Thank you, Heather.
Anybody else? So perhaps just as a final question, Sam, we've been focusing seems to be on what's important and not what's urgent, and during this discussion, and also focusing a lot on prayer and different aspects of prayer. And I'm just wondering if there are people here who are now being jogged into perhaps getting their prayer life going again a bit, and sort of they may have got in it, or it maybe hasn't been having the importance that it perhaps might. What sort of practical tips would you give, just to sort of how to sort of recharge your prayer life if you're in that sort of situation?
Well, I think I'd say never be discouraged. In prayer, we are all beginners. We're always beginning again. It's not, it isn't a matter of actually learning, getting a sort of certain technique under your belt and then it's all done. It's actually every day we start prayer is, in a sense, is a beginning of an adventure. So don't feel, God, I'm not up there with these people who are saying their prayers 4 times a day or whatever. Actually, every time I begin prayer, it's as though I'm beginning again for the first time. So don't be discouraged. Where you can always begin again. And I suppose the second thing is you can read lots of books about prayer, and there are some wonderful things. And I mean, Brother Lawrence is a real classic. But and I think Michael Main is great. Some great stuff. But in the end, you've just got to do it. Just get on and do it, and you've got to do it in whatever way you can, because actually, prayer isn't a matter of technique or of finding the right words. Prayer actually is the Holy Spirit praying in us. Even the desire to pray comes from the Holy Spirit. It's allowing God to pray in us. God is seeking to pray in us. So just get on with it. Make the time. Begin where you are, at the kitchen sink, or in room, in silence, or over in the church, or as you walk in the fields. Just get on and do it, and ask for the Holy Spirit to enable you to pray, enable you to cry, as Paul says, Abba, Father. That's the heart of prayer.
Mark,
Yeah,
you've got your hand.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up to that, really. I can't remember the exact words, but Rowan Williams was asked about prayer once, and he said it's a bit like sunbathing. You lie out in the sun, and you can't make yourself tan faster by contorting your body. Your part is sort of just to lie there, which I thought was a lovely.
Lovely. It's lovely, and exactly. And I mean, but you know, in a sense, you've got to be still enough to lie in the sun and not to go off and get ice cream every 5 minutes. You've got to just to stay there to do it. And he has got another lovely thing. He talks about contemplation, not us gazing lovingly on God, but us living within the loving gaze of God. But when we pray, and however we pray, whether it's charismatic prayer or prayer, formal liturgical prayer, or whether it's silent prayer, intercession or thanksgiving, whatever it is, actually what we stand, it's in the context of the loving gaze of God, in the heart of our prayer.
Thank you, Sam, and you're going to finish us with prayer.
Okay. Yeah, but lovely.
Just before you do, just to really thank you, and looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow at the same time.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's been really, lovely meeting you online. But actually, thank you for the stimulating questions and conversation. I think we've touched on some really important things, and I hope we will carry on, through the week doing this. Whether or not you're able to come each evening, or whether you join us, just for another couple, whatever. I think let continue. let it.
And just to say that you very kindly agreed that if anybody wants to carry on a conversation with you one-to-one, if they've got anything that they're stimulated, you're very happy to speak to people. And if you email Colin at the Pusey Deanery Prayers @gmail.com, I think that's right, Colin, isn't it? That's it is.
It's all one word. Pusey Deanery Prayers @gmail.com. It's
on the on his the daily daily email. So email that address, and Colin will put you in contact with Brother Sam, and he would welcome any conversation with anybody. So Sam, if you could just finish us with prayer, thank you.
I think I'll just use that George Herbert poem as a prayer itself, and leave you with that, or sort of let that be the final word in our final prayer, because it's addressed. Thou that hast given so much to me, give one thing more, a grateful heart. Not full when it pleaseth me, as if thy blessing had spare days, but such a heart whose pulse might be thy prayer. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everybody for joining, and Colin for helping host.
Pleasure. Thank you very, very much, Brother Sam.
Thank you. God bless now.
Thank you very much, Brother Sam.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye,
everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Tim. See you
Bye,
soon.
Tim.
Bye.
Bye.